Hi guys, happy Monday. Welcome to our coffee chat today. I'm so excited you're here. If you're hopping on and you're joining me, definitely say hey, leave me your name, let me know where you're from, introduce yourself, ask any questions. And if you're catching the replay, definitely hashtag replay so I can come back and I can chat with you later. I've got my comments up so I can see you guys coming in. I'm Wendy Taylor. If you don't know me, I'm a registered dietitian and I'm really a food relationship coach. That's what we talk about in this group all the time. So let's chat about one of my favorite subjects today. It's the satisfaction factor. I just want to thank you for joining me. If you're hopping on, say hey so I can see you and chat with you. This is our Monday coffee chat. My favorite intuitive eating principle. Let's just jump right in. Discover the satisfaction factor. I would no doubt debate this with anyone. If you've read the book, which I'll show you here in a minute, Uncovering and Discovering the Satisfaction Factor is my favorite. Let me just back up and explain to you guys if you're new here and maybe you don't know what intuitive eating is, the concept of intuitive eating, what it actually is, what it means. So what commonly happens is that I see the term intuitive eating getting thrown around a lot lately in social media, on the internet. I'll hear people say, it's just about listening to your body or learning how to feel, your hunger and fullness cues. I hear that a lot too. Some people think eating intuitively means eating whatever you want. So there's a lot of stuff that I hear, and I would love it if you guys would drop below what things that you hear on the internet or that you think intuitive eating is, and maybe we can chat about that, because there's just a lot of stuff kind of floating around out there when you start Googling intuitive eating nowadays. And by all means, it is just listening to your body, and it is understanding your hunger and fullness cues for sure. But there are some misconceptions that it's just eating donuts and pizza all day. These are all things that I hear from other people. But for the record, and this is the book, if you guys don't have it, that I recommend, it's Intuitive Eating. So Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch, they wrote this book, and this is the book where you can find the 10 principles of intuitive eating. What they actually say is in the book, it says, intuitive eating is dynamic mind-body integration of instinct, emotion, and rational thought. So this is the book that I built my program on, Finding Food Freedom. And this is the book that I'll be referencing all the time if you're new here with me. So the principles are something that we review in length in our program, Finding Body Freedom and Finding Food Freedom. I'm sorry, I said Finding Body Freedom. There's 2 programs, the one that's geared towards food. So anyway, also I have something called an intuitive living session, where we can chat one-on-one together and we can talk about what intuitive eating means to you and how to incorporate that into your life, or how to go about beginning how to do that. So if that seems like something you might want to do, just put me or drop an emoji in the comments and I can get back to you. So if you've never learned about intuitive eating before, I encourage you to just book a free coffee chat with me, and you can put a coffee emoji below, and we can get that scheduled so we can talk about what intuitive eating is. So an intuitive living session will really help you understand what intuitive eating is about, kind of go through any of these misconceptions, because there's a lot of things out there online. And yes, it is listening to your body for sure, but these things are really hard to do when you're going through stage 2, which it's stage 2 in my program. It's called the permission stage. Giving yourself permission to eat can be really scary if you're a chronic dieter. So yeah, let's come back to my favorite principle of the book, principle number 6. It's the satisfaction factor. That's the one I want to talk about today. I would say this is my favorite my favorite of all times, put the banner up there for anybody else joining. And I'm going to tell you some reasons why I love it so much. And if you have read the book and you're watching this, tell me your favorite intuitive eating principle, or let me know what principle you're currently working through so I can kind of know what stage you're at and help you. So really, I want to jump to this. It's the hub of all the intuitive eating principles, and this is why it's my favorite. It's like the hub of the wheel. And because it's really a flavor first mindset, this satisfaction mindset. It's all about making your meals satisfactory to you, to who you are and your unique tastes and your preferences. Once you understand this satisfaction factor, it'll make all the other principles a little easier. So you're also going to find that when you don't let diet mentality, we talk about this a lot in the group, when you don't let diet mentality or diet culture dictate what you eat and how you live your life, when you learn to make peace with all foods, when you give yourself that unconditional permission to eat that we talk about in the second stage, the second phase of the program, you're going to get way more satisfaction out of your meals. And when you get way more enjoyment out of foods and out of your meals, what happens is you're not thinking about food all day long. You're not obsessing about food. You're not thinking about, is this good? Is this bad? Should I be eating this? Is this the right thing? Is this on my meal plan? All of those thoughts that are going in your head, yada, 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 like floating around, will go away. So you're going to find that you have more satisfaction from the foods that you eat, and you're going to have less emotional turmoil, all the stuff going on in your head, thinking about like if this food is right, good, bad, counting calories, macros, weighing, all of those things that kind of just take up space, mental space in our head. If you guys can, if you've been there, just shoot me an emoji or say me. I'll come back and chat with you about that, because I know I have. And now I do want to say that does not mean it's bad to emotionally eat. We talk about that a lot in this group too. But what it does mean is that if it's the only time that you're giving yourself permission to eat is when you have these like negative emotions or guilt, you're letting yourself eat these things and you feel guilt and shame after you eat them, if that's the only time you're allowing yourself to eat these things, then you're probably going to find yourself in that cycle that we talk about a lot. It's the deprivation cycle. It's where you're depriving yourself or restricting yourself of foods until the point when you let yourself have them, and then you have more than you probably would have had you just had it in the first place. And then you follow that with guilt and shame and another diet or more restriction. And it's just the cycle. It's an endless cycle. If you can relate to that, let me know. Put me in the comments, put diet cycle in the comments. So it's this overeating, restricting cycle that leaves you kind of in that all or nothing space, and in terms of food. And what it really does is it takes the pleasure out of your life. So when you're eating using intuitive eating and the satisfaction factor, when you are eating with positive emotions involved around the food and pleasure, food is going to be so much more fun and so much more enjoyable, you guys. And it'll also free up other areas of your life that, you know, might be taken up with all of the food thoughts, the obsessive food thoughts. So it's also going to, I think, gentle nutrition. I think joyful movement. I think respecting your body. These are all other principles of intuitive eating. There are other ways to find satisfaction, not only with food, but with your body. and with yourself. So just a general, deeper, more meaningful level in everyday life. So other reasons why I love the satisfaction factor so much is, and I want to talk about this in terms of our culture. So we look at other cultures today outside of the Western culture that we live in here in America. And if you're not in America, then definitely let me know where you're from. But I'm going to refer to this Western culture that we live in and how we eat today as the standard American diet. You might have heard that before. We live in a very diet-infused wellness culture here, and I think that we've deeply forgotten the importance of satisfaction and pleasure. Now, I'm coming from, as a dietitian, being in the wellness world here. In other cultures, Japan, Italy, France, South America, Latin America, pleasure is a huge part of the eating experience. And I think it's really sad in this culture here in the United States that this Western, it's a lot like the Western approach to our health. I talked about this before in the group as well, but it's so much more. Like, we've gotten to a place where we only view food as fuel or food as even nourishment. I hear this word a lot in the wellness space, nourishment. And it is, first of all, don't get me wrong, it is fuel, it is nourishment, but it's so much more than that, you guys. So enjoying your food, having satisfaction and getting pleasure from your meals, it's going to help you enjoy your life so much more. And if you feel like it's a bad thing when you eat food that you enjoy, or you feel like you should be only allowed to eat for nourishment, I would highly, highly encourage you to look at the first principle in this book, which we talk about a lot here in the group, rejecting diet mentality. And we go through this in depth in the very first month of the program, Finding Food Freedom, because we live in a very diet-driven culture. And if you agree with me, put diet in the comments and we can chat, because I've been there too. This is what we were all taught in school. If you heard my story before, you know how I got from there to here. Another reason why I love the satisfaction factor principle in this book is that it does help us tune back into our body, that like mind-body connection. So if you're listening to your body and you're listening to what joy is personally bringing you, because it's different for everyone, and that's why I love it. It's so unique, this process. I also think that it also does allow for truly an all foods fit mentality, because all foods can be so delicious, and you can have any foods in your diet, whether that's kale or whether that's brownies. So, for example, I'm going to start with kale, and because it's the mecca of like nourishment. You see it everywhere. Influencers on Instagram, healthy recipes. I'm just going to start with kale, and we're going to go there because I see a lot of people putting it in smoothies, encouraging us to eat it raw. Boring, bland salads. I have been there. I have done that when I was heavily steeped in diet culture. Now I know that I can enjoy kale in different ways. So what the satisfaction factor does is it's like, okay, I can saute kale in grass-fed butter or some olive oil, and season it with some sea salt or not, and it brings out a flavor, and it's not so bitter and so dry. So I don't have to eat this raw, bitter stalk. And I noticed when I became an intuitive eater, I began enjoying salads so much more. And I found ways to make vegetables delicious. And after working with so many of you guys coming from diets, I know that it can be almost traumatic if you think about eating another dry grilled chicken salad with no croutons and dressing on the side. I mean, this has been your life, some of you guys, for decades. And eating a salad can really be traumatic. So when we're in the stage of giving ourselves permission to eat, we don't even go there. We start with what sounds good to you. The same goes for brownies. Let's talk about brownies because I know now that I can have my kale and I can have my brownies whenever I want. Now, I don't binge on those things. When I didn't allow brownies in my house because they were bad or I shouldn't have sugar, I shouldn't have these things, what happened? When I got around brownies, when I restricted so long that I couldn't not have brownies and I made brownies, I either binged on the brownies, I ended up throwing the brownies out because I wanted them out of the house. I couldn't have any of those things in my house. Now, in the past, if you guys have done anything like that, just let me know, because I know that I'm not the only one that's done that before. But now that all foods fit into my diet, and I have this satisfaction factor component, I'm always looking for the satisfaction factor in my meals. So I'm always sitting and I'm always eating and enjoying being present, whatever that may be. How many of you guys feel that you struggle with being present at meals? Because that is a part of this. To really enjoy your meal and to be satisfied, we have to be present. And so if you struggle with this, type present in the comments. And that brings me to this point. So if you're struggling with what foods you're really feeling joyful about eating, and maybe you don't know, how to get pleasure from your food, I would encourage you to try to find ways first to get really present with your meals. And this is often what is referred to as mindful eating. Now, mindful eating is not intuitive eating. Mindful eating is a part of intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is so much more than just mindful eating. So think of it like trying to take your time to eat during a meal. Put your fork down between bites, noticing any sensory preferences that you might have around what you're eating. This can really help you over time to determine what you truly enjoy and what you truly like. We call it your food preferences. I have so many people tell me, just give me a meal plan, because diets take us really far away from what we really prefer, what we uniquely love to eat. And so I'm talking about taste, I'm talking about aromas, the smell of things. I'm talking about textures of foods, salty, sweet, crunchy, all of those things. So over time, if you're being present at your meals and you're eating, I would also recommend for you guys that are just starting out with trying to be present, no social media, no TV, just tune into your food, even if it's just for a little bit. So you can start to tune into what you feel is delicious and what you feel is satisfying to you. And it'll also help you to tune into when you're feeling full, when that point is. So you might just find out that kale and brownies aren't your thing at all. Someone in the group shared something, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. We had our Gift of Freedom retreat, and we did some mindful eating. We ate lunch together, and I guess she took that piece of that session home with her, and she's working on mindful eating. And she's like, you know what? I sat down for breakfast on Saturday, and I dumped ketchup on my fries, and I started eating, and I noticed it was really disgusting. But I've always put ketchup on my on my eggs. I've always put ketchup on my eggs. And she's like, it just tasted like a bunch of sugar on my eggs. And I've never noticed that. I've always just done it. So it's interesting the things that you'll pick up on when you start to be present and be mindful. A couple of other, couple of other considerations. When I help clients work on this principle, I tell them to think of the satisfaction factor as being mentally full. So there's physical fullness, and then there's mental fullness. They really go hand in hand. So have you ever had a meal, and I'm going to give just a normal good diet meal here. You know, we're chronic dieters. It's a grilled chicken salad with no dressing, no croutons, whatever, no cheese, extra protein, all the stuff. So imagine you have this salad that makes you physically full. So let's say you have this, but what satisfaction factor is it's fullness, but it's pleasure. So if you're eating meals like that every day, are they giving you pleasure? So not only is there the physical feeling of being full, there's this mental fullness, and has that need been met? Because if you're not meeting that satisfaction factor need and that mental fullness and feeling completely satisfied with your meals, if that mental need is not being met, then you're going to always kind of leave the meal with cravings, like you want to eat something else. How many of you guys have eaten around those cravings? Why am I still hungry? I shouldn't be hungry anymore. I'm gonna have a rice cake with some PB2 powder on it. I'm still hungry. Maybe I'll have 20 grapes. I'm still hungry. And you eat all the diety things you can think of, but you're eating around the craving. So if this is you, I would highly, highly recommend you work on letting yourself be mentally full and mindset. So there's another reason why it's so important to let yourself eat what you're craving, even if it's something you feel that you're not supposed to eat, or you're not allowed to eat. So if this is you, I highly recommend you work with me or get in touch with me, and we talk about mindset and diet mentality. That's the first step. So again, if you just put diet in comments, I can come back and talk to you more about it. So let's say you're in the mood for pizza. Say you're in the mood for pizza and you don't want to have pizza because you shouldn't eat pizza, so you go have a salad with grilled chicken on it. What happens? This is an example of you not letting yourself embrace the satisfaction factor in your life. And you're probably noticing that if you're doing these things, you're having some serious preoccupation with food up here in your brain because you're not satisfying that completely. So you might be stewing over it. You might be thinking about it. You might be watching other people's plates when they go out to eat. You might be feeling a little judgy about what other people are eating. And maybe that's something that you really wanted to order. So anytime we judge other people for something in relation to anything, not even just food, it's usually something that we have to work through ourselves. So if you notice this, first thing, practice compassion. Bring awareness to how you're berating yourself for not letting yourself eat what you really wanted to eat in the first place. And this can help you kind of tune into your own self-awareness and help you notice, wow, I'm really envious of other people's plates. And it's pretty solid that I just wanted to eat this myself. Why didn't I let myself just have a slice of pizza and move on? So there might be something that we need to work through there. So to wrap up, the satisfaction factor is mental fullness and pleasure out of your meals. So I want you to consider your senses: taste, aroma, texture, even volume, to help you think about what is truly satisfying you. And you can use more mindful techniques as well. If you feel like you need help with that, put help in the comments and reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you if you put help in comments. So given some time and some work, this takes practice and takes compassion, you'll be able to honor your cravings. And you'll find that when you allow yourself to be satisfied with your meals and food, you're going to have so much more brain space, so much more mental capacity for other things in your life. So your mind won't be on food all the time like it once was. So I've been there, and I can tell you it's true, and that's why I call it finding food freedom. You'll find that your life is going to be so much more pleasurable as a result of this. So one of the things I love so much about intuitive eating and finding food freedom is that it gives you back that mental space. You're not always counting, always judging, always obsessing, always thinking about your next meal. So it just gives you a lot of brain space and clarity to think about the bigger, more important things than just food in your life. And as a result of this, it allows us to live more meaningful lives because we can really tune in and be present with the people that we love. So that's it for today's training. I hope that you enjoyed this session today. Definitely leave me any questions or reach out if you have any. I hope you leave this training thinking more about what you can enjoy with your meals. Think about what you can do to bring pleasure and satisfaction to your meals. Maybe even just sit and journal with some ideas or some thoughts, things that you really are truly wanting to eat. Maybe you're not letting yourself eat. Maybe you're not giving yourself permission just yet, and that's okay. But definitely, if that's you, just say, me in the comments. And I just want you to have more joy and more satisfaction and more pleasure in your day with food, because honestly, when you do, food becomes so much more fun. And as always, the best conversations happen right here. Let's see, we do have a comment. You're welcome. I'm so glad. Yes, I'm so glad you enjoyed it and you made it today. So the best conversations happen right here, you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions. Until the next training. Love you guys.